All right, guys, we are back here on Shattered Darkness. I'm Mitch Benner, your host. As you can see, it's just me today. Cash is still on his family vacation, enjoying time with his family. So praying for him, hoping they're having a good time, being safe. A couple housekeeping items before we get into our episode today. Just want to shout out the Love Shack Mocktail Bar, 120 East 4th Street. That's where we record. Our studio is down in the basement. And if you guys haven't been here, it's an amazing space. It's over 5,000 square feet. Great food, great drinks, great environment. Come down here to work for coffee. They're doing all kinds of fun events, comedy, yoga, whatever, man. Business meetings, all that good stuff. So if you haven't been down to the Love Shack Mocktail Bar, check it out. 120 East 4th Street in Loveland. With that, I don't think there's anything else. Check in with the old produce. We're good there. We are going to get into our story today. So I have the pleasure of introducing a good friend of mine, Zach Ryan. Zach and I met through kind of Beyond the Buzz and these channels. And I'll let Zach tell you about himself. But thank you so much for being here today, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, dude, we're just going to dive into it, man. I'm just going to pull up my little questions here. And really, dude, my first question is, where's your background? Who's Zach Ryan? Where do you come from, man?
All right. So, I was born here in Colorado. I'm a Colorado native. I was born in Greeley, grew up in Fort Collins. Okay. So that's
normal Northern Colorado upbringing.
Yep.
Nice. Were your parents together, divorced?
So, my parents got divorced when I was like 10. It was about, I think, 1990.
Okay.
But yeah, my childhood, I felt like was pretty normal.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a lot of addiction. Actually, there was no addiction in my family growing up. I learned that, as I got older, there was, my grandpa, but he passed away when I was real young and stuff like that. So yeah, my childhood I thought was pretty normal. And yeah, the divorce, I think, was probably one of the biggest things that happened to me. It was definitely a shock
for sure
when that happened. But
were you an only child?
No, I have a sister.
Okay.
Younger. And maybe we could get into it a little bit later.
Sure.
But I actually have a half sister that I didn't even know existed until I was 17.
Really?
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear about that.
So my mom gave her up for adoption, but I can get into that, how it came up during my story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So growing up was fairly normal.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to high school? In Fort Collins?
I went to Rocky.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I really went to school there. That's where I was enrolled, but yeah, high school for me was more of just a time to meet with my friends, so then we could go ditch and get high. That's what high school
was. So what were you like as a kid?
Oh shoot, man. I thought I was pretty I felt pretty shy. Yeah. I always had a desire to fit in. I tried to fit in. I never felt like I fit in. Yeah. There was one time in 6th grade, I set out to infiltrate the popular kids. And I felt like I did it, it's like I dressed right, and I did all the things and they let me hang out with them, but I never felt like I was a part of the group. Yeah. I always felt like that I was there, but I didn't belong.
Right. Well, that's interesting too, that you say that you just the way that you describe that, right? Infiltrate, it's obviously there's this thing in your brain where it's like they're over here and I'm over here. Mm-hmm. That kind of outsider mentality.
Yeah,
I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Did you have a good time in school? Did you have a lot of friends, and were you pretty to yourself, or?
Yeah, no. I mean, as I got older, I felt like, I had a lot of friends. So 6th grade, that's kind of what I tried to infiltrate.
Yeah.
The popular kids, and then I went into junior high, and everything changed. I changed. I became a skater, okay. And then that's what it was, trying to get in cool with the skater kids. And again, they would call me poser, all this stuff, but I was like, hey, I'm hanging out with the cool kids, not, but they were sitting there making fun of me and stuff. And I didn't really, become a cool kid until like ninth grade, where now I run the school. And I was, friends with all the cool people. And so I had a lot of friends. I think I felt like I've always had friends, but it's always changed, and I've always changed to fit in.
Where do you think that came from? Do you think it was natural inside you, or do you think it came from somewhere?
So as I've done a lot of the work throughout sobriety, I've come to realize, and I think this is where a lot of people struggle, is lack of self-worth. It's like one thing I've really worked on as getting sober. I felt like three things I always had running through my brain is I'm not good enough, nobody likes me, and I'm not important. Those were like the three stories that I constantly told myself. And so I felt like nobody would like me for me being me. So I need to be someone else. I need to, put on the right clothes, act the right way, do these things, because nobody is really going to like me for who I am.
Dude, that's great. Like, I can very much identify with that. That's a hard mentality to live in. So what was really not the pin in the grenade, but like, what's kind of the story that led you into your addiction?
Do I know what really led me into my addiction? No, I don't really know. I felt like a lot of it probably came from this desire to fit in. I started smoking pot when I was like 13.
Was it just because it was available kind of thing? Or like, dude, and I totally understand that skater vibe, I still love it. Like, it's who I am,
Yeah.
So I can understand the timing too of like, dude, look at the culture, right? Rage Against the Machine. And I've had this hypothesis, right? For 2000 to 2010, dude, if you're in high school during those times, like, it was weird. And it was very just like, fuck the culture and fuck the government. You can't tell me what to do. And so very like grunge rock mentality,
Mm-hmm.
So, but was it available to you guys, or like weed? Because 13 is pretty young.
Yeah. My older stepbrother, when I say older, he was like a year older than me, but we were the same age. So he was like the first person I smoked weed with. Okay. And so we had older people around, but I never felt that it was hard to find. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess really like, and maybe there's not a specific story, but what's kind of like the pathway that, really started to lead you into addiction and those kinds of things?
So I'm just going to get into the whole,
just go for it, dude.
Just get into the whole story. So yeah, like I said, so school, even though I did have a lot of friends, I hated school. That was like, there was much more important things for me to be doing, like hanging out with friends, getting high, than sitting there and learning.
Right.
So I dropped out of high school when I was 17. I was a junior. But yeah, I started smoking pot when I was 13. By the time I was 15, I was smoking pot every day. It's just, it became who I was. And then it was all kinds of drugs, like I first did meth when I was 16. When I was 18, I started, going to raves a lot, doing ecstasy, all that stuff. Alcohol, it's going to come in to be a major part in my story later. Yeah. But for a long time, like during my younger years, I never really liked alcohol. Now that I can look back on it, I'd be like, oh, it's because I was an alcoholic the whole time. Yeah. But the thing for me is like, I didn't want to drink, because anytime I drank, I always drank too much and then I puked, and it was never fun. Like, it was just, I would drink till I puke. And I'm like, why would I want to do this? Yeah. There's much other fun things out there that I can do all night long. Yeah, right. And not get sick. But now I look back, I'm like, oh, well, I've been an alcoholic the whole time. So that's kind of a big part of my story, is like, I fought the idea that I was an alcoholic. Yeah. And because I look back and I was like, well, I never really drank. Drugs were always a part of my story, but yeah. I always drank way too much the whole time. But yeah, so I dropped out of high school when I was 17. Also around this time is when my girlfriend got pregnant. My son was born 10 days after I turned 18.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's a life changer.
Yeah. I think it was more hard on him than me. We ended up signing over custody to her parents, so they're more the ones that raised him.
Okay.
But yeah, so 17 is about the time I found out that I had this other sister. So I dropped out of high school. My girlfriend was pregnant, and me and my buddies, we loved to tag. So we were all out, graffitiing, just like blowing up the town. And we ended up getting arrested, and my mom had to come pick me up from the police station when I was 17. And she tries lecturing me, and I'm just like, shut up, Mom, you don't know what I'm going through, and she's like, oh, really? And she's like, do you know you have a sister? And I'm like, no, you have another sister. And so she told me the story about her getting pregnant when she was young, and my grandma being so embarrassed of her that she shipped her off to California to live in a convent and give the kid up for adoption.
Jesus.
And yeah, so I had no idea, growing up that she was even out there, that my mom even had to go through this. I always looked at my parents like they had it all figured out, and and then I came to realize, oh, see, we all go through our own shit, and yeah, that was kind of like this. Well, I was like, whoa, kind of made me realize, yeah, my mom's been through some stuff too, and she can relate. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward that. So my mom and her actually ended up tracking each other down over the internet when I was like 20.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and we met her. So she lives in Alaska. She looks exactly like my mom. So
how do you mind sharing a little bit more about that? It's just such a crazy experience.
Yeah.
How was that?
For me?
You met her, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was weird.
I can't imagine, dude.
So you're probably going to ask me a lot of like, how did you feel? I was noticing one of your pillars is vulnerability. One thing I really struggle with is getting in touch with my emotions and like, how do I feel? I don't know. Yeah. And because of the drugs and alcohol, I was addicted to drugs and alcohol for 25 years before I finally got sober. And so a lot of that was like shoving down, covering up, running away. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to feel this. Yeah. And so because I shoved things for such a long time, when people ask, well, how did you feel? I don't know. And even today, it still takes me, sometimes I have to like go and be with myself for a day, a week, and really like check in, like, how am I feeling? It takes me a while to get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. So yeah, when you ask me how was, dude, I mean,
it's hard.
It's hard.
Okay. I mean,
yes.
I actually really love that admission because I'm like the opposite side of that spectrum, dude. Like, I think I struggle so much with big emotions that I'm trying to figure out how to keep them down here, a little bit. And they just naturally are so explosive.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, like being on the opposite side of that, it's very easy for me to identify emotions and how it made me feel, and just because they're so huge. You know what I mean? But I was going to ask you something that I kind of forgot. So meeting your sister, your half sister.
Yeah.
Do you still talk to her today? Like, are you still in touch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot. Like I said, she lives in Alaska. My mom has gone back and forth to Alaska for like 20 years.
Okay.
And like lived up there for 3 years at a time, just to get to know her.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have and she was adopted by a really good family, took real good care of her. And
dude, that's such a wild,
yeah,
it's just wild.
Yeah.
So that happened when you were how old were you?
Yeah. So yeah, the arrest and all that stuff happened when I was 17. Yeah, I met her when I was around 20.
Okay.
But like I said, yeah, my son was born. That's definitely a painful part in my life that now that I look back on it, just because I wasn't there, and it's caused a lot of pain in his life that I regret, that it's hard. And do
you guys have a relationship today?
We do, yeah. But I feel like it's strained.
Totally.
And yeah, so it's hard, and I know it definitely affected him growing up. So he has his own issues that he's working with, and yeah.
That's the thing, man. Like, you're here now, and doing everything you can. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
How old's your son?
He's 27.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then I have a daughter that's 23.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep.
So after your son's born, I'm assuming the issues didn't stop.
No. It actually the reason why his mom and I broke up is I was a huge pothead, and she was like, "You need to choose either me or the pot," and I was like, "Okay, bye."
Easy choice for me.
Yeah. Because I was like, I've been smoking pot longer than I've known you. Yeah. Like, yeah, we got together. You knew who I was.
That's like the storyline of the movie Half Baked.
Yeah. 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 So we broke up. I mean, he was maybe six months old, and his parents ended up, or his grandparents raised him, and I was just off ripping and running for years. Addiction continued to get bigger. Yeah. There was this stint when I was like 20. I was in jail for like 4 months. So yeah, when I was 17 and got arrested for tagging, I was only supposed to be on probation, I don't know, a year. I don't know what it was. Maybe 2 years. But
was it all for tagging?
Yeah. Yeah, because it was a felony, criminal mischief. Yeah. Because we did so much dollar amount of damage that it was a felony. But I was a juvenile. Was on probation. I usually did most of the stuff. It was just I refused to stop smoking weed. And man, I would just fight with my probation officers. And finally there was one that like convinced me to stop smoking weed, and I was like, all right, fine, I'm just gonna start drinking. And this is kind of around the time where drinking became big for a while, because I was like, well, I can't drink, and God forbid I just get sober. It's like I need something. Yeah, right. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So I started drinking, fairly heavy at that time.
Like right away?
Pretty like to
kind of like, yeah. Dude, and I get that. I can go back in my life, dude, and it was so funny. There'd be times where I tell my wife, be like, I can, not smoke weed for a year.
Yeah.
Okay, what am I doing during that time? I'm fucking hammered.
Yes. Yeah.
I drink so much, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, I can leave drinking.
Yeah.
I'd be fucking stoned all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I get like that back and forth, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. And that's the thing. There's always this question, but sometimes you never find the answers to questions. Like, was it really that I was an alcoholic, or was it really that I hung out with terrible people, that drinking responsibility was never like a thing? Yeah. The goal was always to get fucked up.
Dude, I cannot identify one group of fucking people in my past that didn't want to do just that.
Right.
Every Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night.
Right.
Every night. And it's just like, they're not bad people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're good people. They work hard and make money, and it's like, work hard and play hard, So I get that. And I don't feel like anyone in our generation had a fucking stop button.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Hey there, if you're anything like me, now working for your business, small or large, it's not fun. It's probably the least exciting thing that we do. You're rubbing shoulders with people that feel inauthentic, and honestly, you don't know if you want to see these people after 5 o'clock every day. So we have a solution for that. Mitch, what's the solution for that?
The solution that we have come up with is Beyond the Buzz. Beyond the Buzz is a networking group that focuses on supporting each other in the things that we feel like matter in our life, in our sobriety, and in our businesses. So we're trying to bring in small business owners from the community that have chosen to live the sober path or are sober curious, just curious about what's going on down here at the Love Shack. We are just trying to create an authentic space where people can share real issues that they have going on in their life and find no judgment, find real help and support. I can personally tell you, through the months that we've had this going, I've made some amazing connections with some incredible people that have poured actual resources into my life.
And it doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. You can be a car detailer, you can be commercial real estate, you can be in construction. I know that as a roofer, I've gotten jobs out of it. As a real estate agent, you've gotten work out of it. I know that I've given people work from it. It's been a really amazing way to connect. So I don't care what walk of life you're walking, come check us out.
We want to meet you.
Where are we at?
So we meet at the Love Shack Mocktail Bar every other Friday from 9:30 to 11. it's kind of all just right here at the Love Shack Mocktail Bar, 120 East 4th Street, every other Friday. So we hope to see you guys here. Come make some real, truthful, authentic relationships.
Yep.
So start drinking.
Yep. But that was also short-lived. I mean, I started drinking heavy. I mean, I could go into crazy drunk stories.
We all go.
But it ended up transitioning usually it was around 21. You know, of course I turned 21 and was continuously drinking heavy. But then like my meth addiction like really ended up taking over. And a lot of times throughout my story, things like that's what it changes to something else. So it was like I'd smoke pot a lot and then I'd drink a lot. And then it turned into me smoking meth. And throughout like 21, 22, there was a point where, I was cooking it, selling it, smoking it. Like just, it was...
You're committed.
I was all in. Yeah. And this is around the time that my daughter comes into the picture. Her mom got pregnant. She stopped. I couldn't stop. And so, you know, social services got involved. I had to go to treatment. And so this was like my first introduction to recovery. It was when I was 22 years old. Went to a 45-day residential treatment, did 6-month IOP, and it was like, you know, I was forced to go to 12-step meetings throughout that program. But like the whole goal for me was like not to stop.
Yeah, it was to get through it.
Yeah, it's to jump through my hoops and get my life back in order. Throughout that period, I was like, oh, okay, I don't do meth. I got it. You know,
easy.
Yeah,
no problem.
No, yeah, don't smoke meth. All right,
I could have saved you guys a lot of money.
Yeah. Yep. So I was like, all right, I'll just go back to doing what I do. I'll smoke pot and drink. And
let me ask you a question. And in those, and maybe this is more geared towards your involvement in it and your mentality, but like, do you feel like those programs were helpful?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I look back, even though they didn't work at the time, everything that I have done has planted seeds along the way.
Yeah, dude, I like
that. So there was one time when I was going through IOP, and they made us go to these meetings, and I was angry, and I was just fighting it. I'm not wanting to do it. I'm like, this is stupid. And I'm at a meeting, and I hear this girl. She's like a newcomer, and she was like, yeah, someone said, like, if you're willing to do any drug set on the table in front of you, why not be at least willing to try sobriety?
Damn.
And
that's
I was
fucking powerful.
And I was like,
I like that.
And that was one little changing point that helped me get through that time, because I had to like
It's a mentality shift.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I was like, yeah, because that's how I was. I was willing to do whatever. I mean, dude, I would take pills not even knowing what they were. I'm just like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, why not be at least willing to try sobriety? So I tried it out for a little while, and I jumped through those hoops, and I moved on. And
how long?
I don't know. It was like maybe a year and a half of my life.
Okay.
But again, it's like I was. But for me, like sobriety was never. Like the idea of being sober was, I mean, it was scary, but it was not, it's like it's something I wanted.
Dude, it's the only thing I've been able to even kind of come close to like, is like when you think about eternity, and dying, you're like, you can't fathom it, right?
Right.
And it's just like this kind of mind-blowing insane, and you're like, what the fuck, like never, like you just never die,
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like that for me, where it's just like, oh my God, like it's a fucking unbelievably hard realization to come to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think it's so important everyone says one day at a time. Totally, this is all we got. And you start thinking about forever. Especially I was 22 at the time.
Dude, I can't even. I was 38.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
crazy.
I mean, I didn't get sober until I was 37. But that was the moment, like it got me through that period. But yeah, like I think that's why it's so important to take it one day at a time. And even, you know, I've been sober for 8 years now. I'll still never say I'll stay sober forever because I have no idea. What I can say is I'll be sober for today. I know that.
Dude, and I love that. I mean, and that's really all that we can do. And I was like, I don't even know where it's at in the Bible, but it says something along the lines of like, I am not, I was, you know, I'm not, I will be. My name is I am.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in the moment. I'm here. I'm right in front of you. You know, and that's kind of how I think we look at the world, right? Like, yeah, let's just take it one step at a time. So I'll ask this because you're 22 at this point. You said you didn't get sober till 37. So I'm assuming there was quite a few relapses throughout that process.
So yeah, I'm like 23, start drinking, start smoking pot. There's a point in my life till about 27 that things got really good. You know, I became a manager of a restaurant, bought a condo, you know, life was good. Yeah. But I was starting to drink a lot and I was recognizing that it was a problem and God forbid I do something about it. I was like, you know, I never had a problem with Coke. I bet I could do some Coke for pieces.
I'm sorry, it's not funny, but it's so funny.
It is,
you know,
yeah.
'Cause I'm like, yeah, why not?
Yeah. So then that started me on a Coke binge that lasted like 5 months and just completely destroyed my life. I lost the job because I was stealing money. Lost my family, lost the condo, all this stuff. So I ended up stealing a bunch of money from the job I was at. My boss came to me because he was noticing something was up because I was always like this awesome employee and he's like, something's off here. And so the first time, you know, I was like, oh, well, you know, and I made up something, you know, my grandpa just died. Yeah, he really did just die, but I was trying to blame it on that. Yeah. I was trying to like come up with all these other things. Yeah. And then, but, you know, I was like, you know, a week later, I came to him and I'm like, all right, you're right. I've been doing like Coke, like bad, like all day, every day. And I want to stop, but I can't stop. Like I can't come to work and not get high. Like I need some time off. I want to go to detox, all this stuff. And he was like, okay, we have a week's paid vacation. Go ahead and take that. And then you've been doing such a good job. We will also give you a second week's paid vacation. Go get help.
Yeah.
I went home and partied for 2 weeks. You know, part of it was my girlfriend at the time. She wanted to get help also. And she was pissed off that I was about to leave and go to detox. And like, she was like, I want help. You're just going to leave me here with our daughter and go get help. And so I felt bad and I didn't go and ended up just, you know, drinking for 2 weeks and went back to work, pretended like things were okay. And of course they weren't. And it was just shortly after I was back into it again and ended up stealing a bunch of money. And then I just was honest. I'm like, hey, these deposits never made it to the bank. And he called the cops, got arrested. Throughout that, I ended up getting into drug court. So this was probably around 2009 to 2011. So I actually got my got fired from my job, got arrested the next day, was out on bond. Exactly 30 days later, while I'm out on bond, I get a DUI. So I get arrested, revoked bond, ended up in drug court. So as I keep noticing, alcohol continues to play a part throughout my story. Yeah. But again, I'm not willing to take a look at that. Throughout my story, a lot of times I'm like, I recognize I'm an addict, you know, but I was like, oh, I'm not an alcoholic. Yeah. See, alcohol doesn't cause problems in my life. It's the drugs. The drugs, I lose things when I do drugs. I don't lose things when I drink.
Right.
So I ended up in drug court. Drug court was from 2009 to 2011. Now, when I was in drug court, every time I screwed up, it was always alcohol. Again, I'm not willing to take a look at that. Not willing to admit I'm an alcoholic, but it's the one that keeps tripping me up. But finally, I get through that program in 2011, 2012, and I'm like, you know what? I look back in my life, I'm like, you know what? Drugs are a problem. I need to stop doing drugs. As long as I just stick with alcohol, I'll be okay.
So. Yay! Yeah, like the worst one of all.
And so the thing is, yeah, the next like 6 years of my life were probably the brutalest. And that's why I was just drinking. So with that DUI, I got my license back in 2012, and I had interlock in my car because of the DUI. So I was only supposed to have the interlock for 2 years. I turned it into 5. And it was I'd never go out drinking and try to drive home. It was always like I would drink at home. I drink too much. I try to start my car the next day to go to work and blow hot. And so there was one time, like when they extend you, you can do a hearing and kind of plead your case. And I was like, listen, I wasn't trying to drive drunk. I would just drink too much the night before. Like, totally thinking this is like a legit.
Come on, guys, this is normal.
Right.
Like, you did it too.
Yeah. I'm like, if you look, all the times, I mean, you could see it. Like, they print out all of the reports. Yeah. And you could see it, like, if it's over a .025, then it triggers or something like that. And so mine was like a .027, .026. I'm like, look, it's barely there. Like, I'm trying to plead my case. It's not working. And so that was the first time. After that, whenever they would extend me, I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to try to do this again. But yeah, I turned that into 5 years. And so throughout this time, I had finally gotten to the point where I recognized that I'm drinking too much. I need to like try and control it. So I'm like, okay, if I get off work at 4 o'clock, I go to the liquor store, I buy a pint of vodka, I start drinking the pint of vodka right away, and as long as I'm done by 8 o'clock, I can start my car the next day. And so that is like, I'm doing this every day. And here I am thinking like, wait, see, I control my drinking. I'm controlling it just fine. Yeah, and that's pretty bad.
That starts to go throughout the day.
And that's what it was like. And then I would always, sometimes I make the decision, well, I'm just going to ride the bus or something. I'll do something else to get to work and so I can keep drinking. But that was kind of my routine, that I would just go through day after day after day after day, which is a pretty pathetic existence that I was living. But July of 2017, my interlock finally comes out of my car. And now there's no more limit on my drinking now. I'm off to the races. And so by October, I am drinking all day, every day. I get to a point where I wake up in the morning and I'm shaking so bad. I have a bottle of vodka sitting on my nightstand. I grab it and I slam it and I just lay there in bed and I wait for my body to calm down. And then I get up and go to work. And then I go on like this every day for the next 3 months. And it gets to a point where I'm kind of at my breaking point. And so I had a stepbrother, an older one that was an alcoholic. And he quit drinking and had a seizure, fell, hit his head, ended up in a coma for 30 days and has permanent brain damage because of it. So I had that in the back of my head. It's like, I know what happens when you're at a point where your body has become so dependent on alcohol that you can't just stop drinking. Yeah. And so I'm starting to like, okay, I need to do something about this. And I talked to my boss's wife. She's a nurse. And she's like, oh, yeah, you really need to go to the hospital. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, well, then what you need to do is you need to like just drink a beer to get you through. And I'm like, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
A couple days later, I call up Mountain Crest. I'm like, I need some help. And I tell them, kind of what I'm going through. They're like, yeah, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't have insurance. It's going to cost too much. I'm like, all this stuff. I'm like, I can't do that.
Let me ask you, did you realize that why they were telling you to go to the hospital?
Yeah. But
because I didn't know.
Yeah. No, and I knew, with what my stepbrother, I knew how important it was to seek medical attention, but I didn't want to because, like I said, I didn't have insurance. I wasn't like, I was making it through life, but I didn't have any extra money. Like, so getting an emergency room bill was like, nah.
Yeah, that's not happening.
No.
I'd die first.
So I had a friend of mine who was a doctor, who's a surgeon down in Denver, and I called him up. And I'm like, this guy, I bet he can prescribe me some drugs because that's what I need. I don't want to go to the emergency room just to get a prescription, just to get me through these withdrawals. So I called my buddy that's a doctor, and he was like, yeah, you need to go to the emergency room. And I'm like, dude, I can't, and and he ends up, I was like, can't you just like, I'm not trying to fish for drugs. I'm trying to get through these withdrawals. And he's like, I can't write a prescription. And I was like, so he ends up convincing me to go to go to the hospital. So that was January 7th, 2018. So that was kind of my point of getting sober.
Is that your date?
So I consider my sober date January 8th. I went to the hospital on January 7th, but I was drinking before my mom came over. Yeah. And so I wasn't sober until like 9 o'clock at night. Yeah. So I was still drunk that day. So I consider the 8th as my sober date. So, but it's like I planned it, 1/8/18. It's kind of a cool.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's badass.
Kind of a cool sober
Actually, I haven't even ever looked at my numbers, but there's probably nothing cool like that.
Yeah.
So dude, this is kind of that transition phase, right? Where like, okay, you go to the hospital, you get the help you need. Mm-hmm. Keep going with your story, man. I'm like, what's next?
Yeah. So I want to backtrack. One of the questions that you had emailed me was about a spiritual experience. And I feel like this was kind of the moment where I had that first spiritual experience, because I was finally at a point where I was willing to accept help, and I realized that I couldn't do it on my own.
Surrender, man.
Yeah. And I feel like now, like, I don't think that's what it was at the time, but now that I look back, because I still struggle with ego, that I feel like I know what's best, and if everybody would just listen to me.
Oh, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah. But it was a point of surrender, and I feel like that was definitely a God shot in the moment, because I was at the point where I surrendered and I was willing.
I am going to ask, did you feel anything in that moment that you can remember?
No, I was broken. That's what, through all my relapses and all my times getting sober, like, I would always lose things, jobs, house, cars. I would lose things. This one was different. I didn't lose anything. I was just mental and emotionally bankrupt. I could not go on any longer. And so that's what it was this time. It was not like a monetary bottom. It was a mental, emotional, spiritual bottom, that I was just empty and I could not go on any longer. And yeah. And I actually talked to my mom, because I called her up to come take me to the emergency room, and I admitted to her I'm an alcoholic, and she's like, "Oh, I know."
Yeah, exactly. Right, yeah. We know.
Yeah. And like, what I remember of the situation is, this is it. I'm getting sober. I'm going to do all the things that they say to do. I'm going to get sober. My mom says that I said, I'm just going to like try and, be sober for a little while just to get this under control, just so I can, and I'm like, did I really say that? Because I was like, that's not my intention. That's not what I remember of the situation. I remember being done. But she was like, and what I feel like happened was I was probably trying to lessen the blow if I relapsed.
Dude, yeah, totally.
I was trying to set an expectation that, I'm not going to be sober forever. I'm just going to do this just to get things under control.
Dude, and that's sometimes, like, I'm an external processor, and this is something I've learned lately with my wife. Like, I have to be careful what I process with her out loud.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, you're taking some of this stuff for fact. Like, this is just me spitballing what's going on in my brain.
Yeah.
Just to get it out and kind of understand it. So I do that shit all the time. And I'm like, did I actually really say that?
Yeah.
What I meant was this.
Yeah.
So, so you decided to get sober. Like, did you go into a rehab program?
No, I went to my plan was talking to my friend that was a doctor. I was going to go to detox. Yeah. So I was going to go to the emergency room, get the meds that they needed, go into detox. But this was a Saturday night when I talked to him. So a Sunday morning when I went there, and detoxes were all full. There wasn't as many as there are today. Yeah. And so I had my mom come, and she came and stayed with me. I got the medication to get me through the withdrawals. And then I started hitting meetings, doing that type of thing. But yeah, I didn't go into rehab this time. Yeah.
Dude, what do you think the biggest difference in all of this was? Like, why was this successful this time around?
So there's a part of this story here that I don't really want to talk about, just because I want to keep certain traditions. I want to hold certain traditions. So if anybody is curious, I'm more than welcome to sit down and talk with them and tell them exactly what I did. But what I do want to talk about is, I think a big part is one of your pillars is community. Is I became part of a community of sober people living life and doing things together.
Dude, and that's the thing, like, what did that give you? Like, explain the mental, when you go into that room of people like that.
Yeah. So it was like, I mean, part of it is like belong, is also part of it like is understanding.
And let me remind listener, like, your biggest struggle as a child was belonging.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So I'm going to back up and touch on a little part of my story that I skipped over. So when I was in drug court, I was struggling big time, depression. They started putting me on medication, but I was having a hard time. And so I grew up in like a Christian home. We had to go to church all the time. I didn't really like it. When I was like 15, like my dad, he'd make me go to like twice on Sunday, go to youth group, all this stuff. I didn't want to do that. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to do this.
Church, you guys built that?
Resurrection Fellowship.
You too.
So, okay. So I had that part of my background. When I was 15, I kind of like, screw you, Dad, I'm not doing this anymore. And so they never made me go to church anymore again. See, the thing is, like, going to church, I didn't really understand the reason behind it. I thought it was like, I go to this, it's like school to me.
Yeah, it was me too. Well, dude, I'll be honest, that's kind of, they had a lot of things that made it feel that way too.
Yeah.
For kids, arcades and fun places to be, and parks, skate parks, and all kinds of stuff. But, yeah.
So when I was in drug court, I had a friend who was like, hey man, you should come to church with me. You should come to church with me. You should come to church with me. And, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But there was a point where I was just so broken that I'm like, all right, fine. I'm going to go to church with you. 'Cause I knew that the people I hung out with and that I was surrounding myself with were no good. Like, they were going to I was going to continuously get in trouble. I'd stay on the same path as I was going. I needed a different group of friends. And I was like, if anything, I bet I could find at least a different group of friends at church. And I did. I found an awesome group of friends going through church, and it was a great part of my life. I really felt connected to God. I had a good community. So the friend that I reached out to that was a doctor was one that I met there at church.
Okay.
So it was an amazing community I had at the time. But again, I was still, like, I felt I belonged. I felt like I belonged. There wasn't part of that. But I still had this thing that I struggled with addiction. And they didn't. They were all like these normal people. And I was a little bit older than them. So they started getting married and going off and having kids. And that kind of friend group disappeared.
Church?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, some people like, my friend that was a doctor, he ended up going out to South Carolina for a while. A bunch of people moved out to Denver. It was just things. I mean, it's just life, it just started changing. And then so that community that I had, it kind of had disappeared. And so that was kind of when my drinking started transitioning back to being really difficult. Because I met them in drug court while I was kind of sober at the time. And then I got out and I'd start drinking a little bit, but it wasn't as bad as till I started isolating.
Yeah.
So I had that group of friends that got me through that point of time. And so later on throughout my sobriety, I've come to realize how important it is to have people that you do life with. And I really think it's important. Sure, it's okay to still hang out with old friends, but I mean, are you guys on the same path? Are you going the same direction? Like, for me, like, if someone has friends that are normal drinkers and go out and have a drink and go home, sure, that's fine. Yeah. Those are not the people I hung out with. Yeah. There was nobody having one drink. Yeah. Like, the only reason to have one drink is to fill in the gap between 0 and 2. Right. There is no reason for one drink.
It's just warm up for number 2.
Yeah.
Which is warm up for 30.
So for me, I needed to find a group of people that were dealt with the same things, were moving in the same direction, and And so that's kind of what my sobriety has been. Because there's been a lot of ups and downs throughout sobriety. Like COVID for me was rough.
Dude.
Like for me, I was the type of drinker, I would drink alone in my apartment. And so me being alone in my apartment was a terrible place for me to be. So that's why I'd get involved in these things that were outside of my house, is because I don't want to sit alone in my apartment. Well, COVID happens, it's like, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to sit alone in your apartment. And I'm like, I'd sit there, oh dude, it was a deep, dark place for me. But going back to drinking was not an option, you know. So I ended up reaching out. I started seeing a therapist. They put me back on medication. All these things because, you know, during the beginning of my sobriety, you know, I was going to the gym all the time, which that got shut down. So everything that I was doing got taken away. And so I couldn't rest on what I had done. I had to seek out new things, therapy, medication, whatever that was, to get me through that point in life.
Dude, that's crazy to like, I mean, obviously it meant enough to you at that point, and there had been enough damage in your life up to that point that like, even in that situation, dude, like you knew like, this is what I need to do. Like,
yeah,
reach out. And, sorry, let me look at my list of questions here. So what, like, tell me a little bit about your spirituality today. Like, what does that look like in your life today? Your higher power.
I can't even tell you. I don't even know. Like I said, I've done a lot of the church thing. I still believe there is a God. I think so many people get caught up in the idea of having to like define it and figure it out. And I don't think God is an intellectual problem to solve.
Thank you. That's a fucking really good answer, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so that why would faith exist?
Yeah. So, I kind of look at it like this. Like I look around me and I see design. So I think there's got to be a designer. And I feel like the fact that I don't drink anymore is God doing what I couldn't do for myself. Cause I couldn't do it. Like, so yeah, there's a lot of times, some days I feel like a spiritual gangster.
Yeah, dude.
Other days I feel like an atheist.
So.
And I'm somewhere in the middle being like, okay, that I don't have it figured out.
Dude, that is honestly probably one of the best fucking answers I think I've ever gotten to that question. You know, because I think that's exactly where we need to be. You know, it's knowing that like we don't have it together. So it's like, all right, I'm going to give up to something, you know, I'm going to label it whatever, your higher power. But then it's something that helps you live inside of those standards that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and brings peace and all of these different kinds of things. And that's what I keep trying. When I have these conversations with people, oh, I don't believe in God, you know, I'm like, well, you know, you're missing a massive gift, you know, freedom and all of these things in your spirit and your heart for you. You know, it's designed for you, you know, not for you to go shove it down other people's throats. So, I love that answer, man. So what are you doing today? Like, what does your life look like today? And, you know, and I guess tie that back into like, what has being sober, how's that changed your life today? I know that's a really broad question.
Yeah. So my life today is fucking amazing. That's really what it comes down to. But it's taken a lot of work to get to this point. You know, like I said, I've been sober for 8 years. I've been through a lot of tough things in sobriety. But today, life is amazing. I own my own business. I have a great group of friends. I have an amazing girlfriend that I would not be where I am at today if it wasn't for her. So life is amazing.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This is a question. I didn't add it to you, but I love this question, and I'm going to give a shout out to Nathan Scott for asking me this question. But what is one thing that you want people to know about you?
Actually, Cash brought this up at the last. At the last.
Damn you! I love this.
Beyond the buzz. No, so that's good because I've had a chance. I've already answered it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not going to be sitting here like, dude, I don't know. I think integrity and responsibility is important. I want to be responsible and a man of integrity, and I find those things important. Like for me,
Will you define integrity really quick?
doing what you say you're going to do with whether someone's around or not.
There it is. Doing the right thing, whether someone's looking or not.
Yep. Yeah.
I love, and that's, my daughter defined this for me the other day. I was like, hey, use a big word. What does that mean? And she's like, just doing the right thing when no one's looking. I'm like, hell yeah, player.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to define that because we talk about it a lot.
Right. No, and I think defining words is important.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think those are important. And so what that means is anybody that knows me knows that I'm always on time. I think it's important to show up on time, and I don't know why it's become so taboo to be punctual. Because sometimes you're like, why you're here on time? Or like, a party starts at 6:30 and I show up at 6:30. Like, why are you here? We're not ready yet. I'm like, if it starts at 6:30, why aren't you ready?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. It makes things very difficult.
I think, so one thing that I'm a strong believer in is that your life should reflect that you're sober. Like, so if you get sober and your life is still a mess and like you're all over the place and you're like late to things and you're messy and disorganized, and it's like, then being sober isn't really like doing you any good. Like, it should be like the building block for everything else in your life. It's like you get sober and then you start building all these other things on top of it.
Dude, you know what's wild to me too? Like in my journey through sobriety, like when you're talking that chaos, right? That internal chaos, didn't just go away.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I just wasn't able to drink it away,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was like, for me, like alcohol worked really well. You know what I mean? It wasn't a problem. It was a solution to this chaos that was inside of me. And it took a long time. Like I'm still going through it as we speak today, like to learn how to, love myself, and have respect for myself, and realizing that if I can't have that for me, then I'm never going to be able to accept it from other people, or give it to other people, and so, but it took time to realize that, and I love what you said that like sobriety should be that building block, that foundation, because I look back on that and yeah, dude, it's like you start to make sense of life a little bit at a time.
Right.
So, sorry, I feel like I interrupted you a little bit, but,
so yeah, back to what I want people to know about me.
yeah, what do you want people
So yeah, I find those things important. So a lot of times I might be slow to speak in a situation because I don't want to like say the wrong things. I want my words I want to put them together intentionally. And, if someone say invites me to something, I'm not going to commit unless I know 100% that I can be there.
That's awesome, actually.
Yeah, because there's something like, trust me, all I do is hang out with alcoholics, and it's like herding cats sometimes.
Why do you think we have to be on the buzz meeting every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Because it should be every week. Because everybody shows up every week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel you on that one. And it's hard too, man. Like we have all these tools and things to help us be on time, but
Yeah.
we're still so fucked up.
Yeah.
But so integrity, responsibility, those are the two things that you value the most in your life.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, is there anything else before we wrap this up? Is there anything else that you want to add? Anything that you want to say?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of your pillars that I really liked and I wanted to touch on.
Sure.
So self-discipline.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on that because I am terrible at it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So, because if I have to make a choice on doing, like, say if I used to go to the gym all the time.
Yeah.
I don't anymore.
Yeah.
Because that habit has gotten away from me. So what I have done, and it's changed throughout my sobriety, is I think there's something more important than self-discipline, and that's habit. is because if I have to rely on me making the right decision, it's not going to happen. But if I create a habit around that, then it's just part of what I do. One of my favorite quotes is by Aristotle. It says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit."
It was.
So how I got sober and I stayed sober is I created a habit around it. And so it's like I'd get off of work, I'd go to the gym, I'd run home, I'd eat dinner, I'd hit a meeting, I'd go to bed, and I'd do the same thing. And I'd just do this over and over again. And it becomes a habit because if I'm like, do I want to go to the gym? No, I don't really want to go to the gym.
You're not thinking about it.
You know, I just do it. I just go to the gym.
Let me ask you a question. How do you create the habit?
I mean, first it takes like intention, like that I want to do this.
An insane amount of self-discipline.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe. Yeah.
You know, and that's where I come back to because I very much struggle with the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's this thing in my life. It's becoming like my word, integrity. Dude, it's if you say you're going to do something, you better fucking do it.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And I'm in the same boat. Like if I tell you I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. Right. So I'm very careful to say, oh, yeah, I'll do that. And I even go that way with my clients too in real estate. Like I'm not going to answer that question because that's a question that you should be answering. You know, I can't answer that for you. But it's hard, dude. Like, and that's where I'm like, I'm at the onset of like, okay, I want to be in the gym. I want to work out. I want to build some muscle. But I can't create the habit. Mm-hmm. And I know that I need to create a habit. And I've gone all the way down into like affirmations, right? So trying to hit on all five senses when I'm affirming myself in this thing, right? So you write out a sentence that kind of hits on all five of those senses when you're thinking about it. And so that's where I'm starting is like, I enjoy and it's how I feel afterwards. It's the soreness, it's the pain, right? That I hate it, you know, and that's what causes me to give up. So it's like, I'm trying to create a habit in my brain that's like, I enjoy that. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy the pain of getting healthy and stronger. Mm-hmm. You know, or whatever. It doesn't even have to be over pain, but like I enjoy the work or whatever it is, you know. And so that's like I'm trying to create that habit. And so I guess like my question to you is in the onset of creating a habit, like how are you doing that? Like what's the self-talk look like and the action, you know?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to touch on that. I enjoyed the pain of after I worked out.
See, the crazy thing is I do eventually, but like,
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, there's a point in the beginning where it's excruciating.
I fucking tap out so quick, dude.
For sure. But there was a point where I was going through this really tough time in sobriety, and I was dealing with a lot of mental and emotional pain, and I was just freaking out because I didn't want to deal with it. And then I kind of had this, I don't know, another spiritual experience. Something that I kind of put two and two together where it's like, yeah, I enjoyed working out. And like, what happens when you work out? You know, it's like you apply weight, pressure to a muscle, the muscle breaks down, then you need to like rest. The pain shows you that there was some damage and some healing that's happening. And then throughout the rest, you get stronger. And then I was like, well, why am I so against this mental and emotional pain? Because it's the same thing. It's life has applied pressure to me and I've been broken down. And the pain that I'm going through, the mental and emotional pain, is just the rebuilding. And so many times I would run from that. That's where the drugs and alcohol would come in. It's like I'm running from the pain that I'm dealing with and I'm not going through the healing process to become bigger and stronger on the other side. So yeah, I guess recognizing that pain is part of the process.
And that's true though, right? And like accepting that, you said something that triggered and I kind of forgot, but, yeah, dude, it's hard, man. Like, and I'm not like, if I look back on my life, like I haven't practiced a whole lot of self-discipline in my life. Mm-hmm. Everyone doesn't ask you. Subconscious programming, mm-hmm. right? Like that's what I feel like we're trying to break, mm-hmm. you know? And this is something that I've looked a lot at is like, people are always like, well, like, even though you guys are killing yourselves, like, why the fuck are you still drinking? Mm-hmm. You know, to a normal person, that's like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know, but that's subconscious. It's like, it almost craves the chaos. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so you're not by creating a habit, I think you have to go back into that subconscious mind of like, what am I believing about this thing? You know, how do I like working out? Like, what are my beliefs that are causing me to not do this? Right. And that's the piece that I haven't like really figured it out. You know, like I've created a belief system. It's somehow got some huge negative connotation in my mind. Right. To where when I start to feel that, I just give up.
Yeah.
You know, or like I don't want to move, or I sit on the couch and it's like, it's not my fault. You know, I just need to get the fuck up and move around.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and that's where I'm like, maybe I'm thinking that, like overthinking, you know what I mean?
Right.
But so I'm curious about like your thoughts on that, like subconscious mind and how we reprogram those things. And because that's really what sobriety is.
No, I would agree. Yeah, because a lot of it comes back to identity, you know, and it's like, what's the story you tell yourself about yourself? And a lot of it also too is to like, you know, stack up enough evidence that I'm not those things.
Totally.
But also, there's a lot of it. Yeah. First of all, you have to be intentional about creating it. Now, like I said, I used to work out all the time. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't anymore. I should. My life is different these days. When I first got sober, my life was very small. Like, I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have friends. I had a handful, but I mean, it wasn't very many. It wasn't like the plethora of friends I have now. I wasn't like going out and doing things. Like my life when I was drinking is I would go to work, I'd go to the liquor store, I'd get a bottle, I go home and drink, and I do it all over again. Yeah. And I'm like, the going to the liquor store is the part of my day that needs to get interrupted. And so instead of going to the liquor store, I went to the gym. So it was like,
you're right.
And that was the thing. It was really easy because I didn't have anything else going on. Yeah. It's like if I didn't go to the gym, then what? You know, it's like I'd probably go to the liquor store. So I need to do that. So that was like this disruption in that habit that I had created to drink. So I needed to break that. Now it has changed, you know, like I went back and forth to Alaska for a little while. That's kind of where my routine got disrupted. And now like my focus is on building the business. Yeah. And so I give myself grace because I have different priorities these days.
And and you're right. Like, it's not like I'm sitting there beating myself up. But, you know, I'm like, I always have the conversation. I'm like, dude, if you just started this 6 months ago, you'd be where you want to be right now. You know, and it's like, I'm always like doing that, you know. And so I think I just have a bad habit of looking backwards and instead of trying to understand who I am right now and how I want to move forward.
Right.
You know, so that's good, dude. That's some really good nuggets of wisdom in there. And I appreciate that. Was there any of the other or anything else you wanted to touch on with community or any of the other pillars that you wanted to touch on? Because I do think that one is probably, I think all six are important, but like, that's the one that will bring you longevity in sobriety, right? That's the one that will really help you create new neural pathways, new subconscious mind, breaking those old habits, you know, and seeing people living their life sober and enjoying it and having fun. You know, that's really good to see that. So I definitely think the community piece is wildly important. But is there anything else that you'd like to touch on before we wrap this up?
So, I'd like to touch on the service piece also.
Okay.
So for me, one of the biggest problems, especially like with my depression, is I get so caught up in my head with stuff. And so many times I'm like, whenever I get into these like depressive spirals, I'm like, my life sucks. I'm terrible. I've got nothing going for me. It's all very self-centered.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just ruminating on me and my position in life. And so that's what service does, is it gives you an opportunity to get outside yourself and to focus on other people. But I've also recognized throughout my sobriety, because I noticed a lot of times people, like, they have a problem with saying no. Like, they're so like people pleasers that they'll just like, you know, so I want to say there's like a balance to being of service, and I feel like it needs to come from a good place, because a lot of times, like, for me, it's like I couldn't tell people no. I just do everything, And it's like, I'm just, because I don't know, I can't set a boundary. I can't,
And I think too, newly on in sobriety, you're so grateful, to be where you're at the pink cloud moment. And it's like, you're just kind of like excited and, you say yes to everything. So I think that's kind of a natural thing.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing, I was never excited. I was being like, you sure? It's like, gotcha. Yeah. And so what I've come to realize is like, the service needs to come from the right place. Like, if it needs to come from a place where I love who I am and I want to share that with you and I want to give the things but if you were like, I just want this person to like me, and you're like, people pleasing and you're just being manipulative, because I felt like so much of the service that I was doing was not coming from the right place. But I feel like it's very important, even if it's just talking to another alcoholic. It's like reaching out to someone and being like, hey man, how are you doing? Like, when you start making it about them, you're like changing your focus and you're putting your attention other places than you. Because that's what my problem is like, I just get all wrapped up in me.
Dude, and this is so funny. We went to I was meeting with some people the other day, and we were talking about a book, and dude, there was a line in it, and it literally says, like, the biggest problem with alcoholics is how sensitive we are to everything in the world, and it's like, this is crazy to me. Like, this is how dumb I am. So last week, I realized that I'm not the center of the universe, and I actually finally realized what the phrase, either God is everything or God is nothing. And dude, it's like hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I'm like, dude, this is the most basic principle that we probably should have learned as children. But for some reason, I am God's gift to planet Earth in my mind.
Yeah.
And my brain will continue to tell me, right? And so it's like, I can't trust my own mind sometimes to tell me the truth, right? And so that's like kind of a scary place to be, but also a very like place of like, it's humbling, and it's like, okay, like if I don't know, then hopefully you do, and so it's just this place of faith that what it's given me, dude, is grace, is the opportunity to feel grace and to feel love and to give those things.
Yeah.
And I think that comes out of service, right? And being around, like, I would never have learned those things if I wasn't at least in the areas that I'm trying to be in,
mm-hmm.
And doing the things that we're trying to do, and so I love that, dude. I think that's spot on, and I think that those two things, the community piece and the service piece, is where we really start to grow as human beings. And I want to give a little bit of a warning in this too, because this is something I also learned, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, but somebody really close, actually Cash was the one that was like, dude, until you get through like a certain phase of your process, just listen, don't give advice, and it was like halfway through, this program. And so I've really taken that to heart, man, because it's like, I think physically and physiologically, so much things, we damage our brain so much with drinking and drugs that it takes time for that muscle to heal. Right. And so, dude, it's taken me years to grasp these basic concepts.
Right.
Right. So it can be damaging if you're not in the right place, and I liked what you said about service, like make it something that means something to you, because that's where you're going to really pour out your authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what's your opinion on of what I just kind of brought up?
Can you elaborate?
Yeah. So
or just point it out again.
Yeah. So like, oh God, you're going to make me do this. What were we just talking about? You have to clip this out. My brain just went totally vacant. What were we just talking about?
I guess I'm a little lost at asking him.
Well, and
that's what I was like.
I wanted your opinion on whatever I was just thinking that I forgot. Clip this out. All right. Well, just clip that whole question out. We'll just move past that.
Cut it out.
Cut it out. I don't know where I was going with that. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But I get
not asking until you reach a certain point.
Oh, right.
Don't Okay.
Yeah, like try not to give too much. And I'm not saying like don't give advice, but like I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that healing process. And honestly, dude, how long it can really take for our brains to fully recover.
So yeah, no, I think it's important. There's kind of a saying that's, take the cotton out of your ears and shove it in your mouth.
Yeah.
That means you need to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
And so many times, like, I know that I was like, oh, but, you always got like a rebuttal. It's like, no, you just need to listen. You need to listen. You need to listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should be listening twice as much as you talk. And so there's got to be, this point where, you just got to listen. Because you need new ideas, new beliefs, new philosophies, and you don't come up with those by talking. You got to listen to there's a part in some of the literature, it says like you got to let go of your old ideas, and so to get on new stuff, you got to like listen,
Dude, and that to me is getting sober.
Yeah,
Right there is the healing of the mind and the heart and the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the abandonment of that inner child, that protection mechanism that we created to, get us through whatever situations that we were in. So, and that's the hard, that's what I feel. Cause it was so wild. Like the onset of getting sober, I'm like, well, it was really not that hard to just quit drinking. Like I had a lot of support around me, and I was surprised at how easy it was for me to not do the act of drinking.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, I'm a fucking emotional wreck, and so that's where I've realized that over the last 6 months, it's just like, and it's this continual realization of like, oh my God, I am so fucked up, and just so wrong in so many ways. So, but that's a really, really hard realization.
correct.
So, well, dude, anything else that you want to add? Any other of the things that you want to touch on?
No.
I love that you picked those two out. Like those are two of my favorite ones. So, and I get energy from people. So, well, last thing we're going to do before we leave is, or in our last episode, we had somebody write a question down that I want you to answer on here. And then when we are done, we'll have you write a question for our next guest. And then eventually we'll probably publish this, but go ahead and read the bottom question. And this question is from Kyle.
Okay, so what has been your greatest life experience? What did it teach you?
And this doesn't necessarily have to be like a good life experience. It could be something, I would say the lesson.
But this, shoot, my whole life's been a great lesson. So I'm gonna touch on two things. I'm gonna touch on something good first. So, like I said, I started my own business, and it has been probably the exciting thing I've done in my life. So I started a screen printing and embroidery business. It's something I've done for 15 years.
Yeah.
I did it for a long time, working for somebody else. Never thought I'd actually do it for myself. And I do, and it's been the greatest experience. Like I am excited about life, and I'm excited about where things are going and things. But so that's something exciting that's going on in life. But I've been through a lot of tough things in sobriety, and I feel like that I've grown the most. So one thing I've touched on was going through COVID was a rough time. Another time was like coming out of COVID. So 2021, my grandma died and my girlfriend dumped me like right around the same time. So those were two extraordinary, painful things that happened. And my idea, how I'm going to deal with this is like, I'm going to, screw this town, I'm leaving and I'm going to go to Alaska. Yeah. So I left the apartment that I lived in for like 8 years. So there's another thing that's a lost moment. And I went to Alaska. And I had this intention that it was going to be this great growing experience, and it was going to be amazing. And it was probably one of the most difficult things I've had to do in my life. So yeah, I was like, I'd been 5 years of sobriety, but I'm going up to work at a lodge in Alaska that's out in the middle of nowhere. And I had worked in the hospitality business before, but I'd been out of it for quite a while. So I forgot how much people in the hospitality business, all they do is drink and smoke pot, eat mushrooms. So it was me at this lodge surrounded by 300 people partying, and I'm just trying to stay sober. And I had gone through all these painful moments that led me there, and it was difficult. And I probably think the greatest thing is that I've learned that I can go through hard things. So I've got this tattoo. These are actually the mountains. This is Denali that's up in Alaska, and it says I can do hard things. And I got this because it was probably the most hardest thing that I have done. Because there would be nights where I'd just be laying in my bed, just like, God, keep me through the night. Keep me sober. God, keep me sober. God, keep me. Because I'm just like, That's crazy. There was so many times where I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Everybody's out there partying, having a good, and I'm just holding on for dear life.
That's crazy.
And I made it through. And what I've come to realize is that pain's not going to kill me. So many times I would run. That's why I would drink and, do drugs, is because I don't want to feel pain, and I don't want to deal with hard things. And so going through the hard things in life is like you start to build up enough evidence that I can make it through this. I can make it through this. And so, yeah, that's probably one of the greatest experiences is getting through that. And a normal person was like, I bet you didn't go back. No, I went back for a second summer.
I needed the money.
No, I mean, it was good money. I mean, and Alaska's awesome.
I was going to say, dude, I mean, outside like the drugs and that sounds like an incredible experience.
Dude, it was really cool. The second, and the thing is, I had a certain expectation of how it was going to be, and it wasn't like that at all. And so when I went back the second time, I was like, well, I know what to expect. Yeah. And I also, I bought a car when I went up there the second time. So now I'm not stuck. Yeah, totally. So going through the painful things in life, it just gives you the know-how, okay, this isn't going to kill me. There's something I fall back on all the time is things always work out the way they're supposed to. I've come to realize that I've been through enough hard times that I'm like, oh, this is it. My life's going to be over after this. And I'm like, no, my life always turns out better. Yeah. So things always work out the way they're supposed to. Yeah. So I that's kind of a mantra I say is things always work out the way they're supposed to.
Well, dude, I love that. That is honestly one of the best lessons, and you're right. That's exactly how you just continually build this confidence, in yourself, and and don't feel bad about that, right? I feel like a lot of people feel bad about that. I'm like, you should feel proud, it's okay to feel proud. Just don't go be a dick about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, throughout my sobriety, I've learned. So like I was talking about, so much of my emotions I would shove and not deal with, so that as things start coming back, if I'm sad or anxious or depressed or fearful, all these quote unquote negative emotions, I think there's something wrong with me, that I'm broken. And it's no, I'm just actually having a human experience. The thing is, I've shoved these things and I've ran away from them, that I think there's something wrong with them. And that's one thing that I've realized is because for instance, I'd be spinning out and I'm fearful and I'm freaking out in a certain situation, what's wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with me. You're dealing with something difficult, and you have not learned how to handle these things, and so that's one thing is I've come to realize that whenever I'm dealing with something that's uncomfortable, it's painful, there's nothing wrong with you. Anxiety serves a purpose.
Well, and then, and then to understand that if you press into those things and respond to them correctly, that you're gonna learn a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
And that comes with time, right? And making those choices time and time again, one day at a time. One day at a time.
One day at a time.
Dude, your story is amazing. And I just want to say, I've known you for, I don't know, roughly 6 months. And I've learned a lot from you. You're much farther along your journey than I am, and I know I've showed up to some of our Beyond the Buzz meetings just like, fuck, you've really given me some good advice. And so I do want to also plug Zach's apparel company. It is the Epic Apparel Company, and correct me if I get this wrong, but it's theepicapparelco.com. Okay. Theepicapparelco.com is his website. And you just speak a little bit about your business and what you guys specialize in, those kinds of things.
Yeah, so apparel decorating, so screen printing, embroidery, DTF, which is direct to film, which is super popular these days. I always try and, I'm a screen printer, that's how I grew up, and DTF is kind of new. Yeah. So I feel like sometimes I need to explain to people. And
yeah, I mean, and some great acronym,
right? Yeah, but not everybody knows the difference, and they're like, I just want something on a shirt. Yeah. You don't need to explain how, but I'm just like, I want to always be.
Well, yeah, and you want to educate people.
Yeah,
for them to make that choice.
As long as if you don't care, then that's fine. But if you do care, then I want you to know. But yeah, so any sort of apparel decorating, hats, shirts. All that good stuff. Yep.
Theepicapparelco.com. Zach does an awesome job. And honestly, dude, I keep telling you that I'm going to buy some swag for you. I am going to do it. So, we'll be knocking on your door pretty soon. But
cool.
Dude, thank you so much for just your story, your wisdom, and, your vulnerability, dude. I really appreciate it. And I'm super, super glad to know you. So, with that, we are going to end our episode here. So thank you guys so much for listening, for tuning in. It blows my mind that we're recording our 68th episode. So that's because of you guys, the listener, the engagements, all of it. You guys are amazing. We really appreciate it. So continue to support, and we will continue doing what we're doing. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week.